Good morning. Again, my apologies. I speak English. And like I said, in a land of almost 100% literates, I am illiterate in Malayalam. So I'm sorry for that. Maybe I request one of the colleagues to give you a summary or a gist of what I say. If one of you can translate after I talk, gist, I would be grateful to you. So, following Professor Saji Gopinath's talk, they use a colloquial term in Kannada. If I talk, it is like showing torch to the sun. Now, so he has almost covered so many points and very lucidly he has put in front of you. I just have a few points, maybe more reiterating what he said, and these are some of the things that worry me, maybe I can say. I'm worried about when I go to sleep at night sometimes and then keep thinking about these. So I just share these with you and leave it at that, and we only try to find solutions, but there are no immediate solutions for this. So one of the things that libraries are envisaged as, what we understand of libraries is, it is a room of books or a building of books. That is the normal understanding of what is a library, because that's a physical, for a very long time we have been used to physical libraries. But as Professor Gopinath said just now, it is a transformation, and the transformation has been rather sudden. Libraries in the brick and mortar form existed for like hundreds of years, and we got used to them. And what we have got used to, we don't like to change, overnight we don't like to change. So library means brick and mortar, there is a building, there are books. But on the other end, the world has changed. And today everybody has a smartphone, and every smartphone has Google. So every smartphone has Google. Shall we close down the libraries? That is the question. Shall we close down the libraries? Every child has Google. Do we need libraries? So my answer was to that. Usually I answer, even in the before world, there were books Bookstalls were there, book exhibitions were there. Did they close libraries in those days? Okay, everybody can go to bookstall and see something, good book exhibition, but we didn't close libraries. So we don't have to get worried whether the library will be there or will not be there. That's not the question. The question is how fast the librarianship, the library skills, the information skills can catch up with the demands of today and the demands of the future. Now this is the question, how fast we can catch up. So though we have Google in our hand, I believe it's a tool for confusing us than leading us properly, right? So if I I have a tooth pain and I need a dentist, I need some attention, the hospital which paid more for advertising, that comes up as the first link. Okay, whoever can afford to push their case on the internet, their link comes up first. Do you agree with me that if you pay money, your link comes up more? So do I believe Google and go to that doctor which the Google is prescribing, or do I ask my parents or my neighbors or XYZ who has a good experience with a good dentist, and then I go to that dentist? So there's a kind of a societal thing that can never be ruled out, and this societal factor is what adds on to the library being a library. Okay, it's not just like a collection of books or like a resource. So people used to assess the success of a library and also funding to library by what is called as footfalls. Means how many people physically visited the library. Now today if I take that as a measure to fund libraries, then I should stop funding libraries. There are no footfalls except the library staff themselves. Only library staff go up and down the library. Our users are keeping away from the library because they think that information that they need should come to their fingertips, and they do not have time time is something people have, maybe today people have more money in their bank account, whatever amount they have. Something that they don't have is time. Time is something people don't have. So libraries have to understand this, and we have to forget this notion of footfall. It is how many times you have really been able to serve not information resources. People don't need information resources today. People need information. There's a large difference. If you give, in the yesteryears, if a librarian used to bring out 6 books or 8 books in answer to a query, he or she would be rewarded. This person could retrieve 6 titles or something for me. Today, if I retrieve 6 titles, people are going to be displeased with me. I don't want your titles. I want the information. Today, I'm going to make this speech. I want to say some facts. I want to give facts and figures. What use is it if I give him links, some 100 links? Okay. So I always jocularly say, if you go to Google and give a search on something XYZ, if I say ILC at Kannur, if I give as a search term, anything that is abbreviated ILC will come up. Okay? Because I am a human being and I can make out which is the ILC I want, then I can make the difference. This is the ILC. Google cannot make that difference. Whichever is abbreviated or acronym as ILC, it will bring out. So we still need this kind of an intervention about giving information and not information services. The other is people are talking here about rural libraries, maybe they are panchayat level, maybe they are rural district level or state level, and then the entire state level. Now I wish to, sir talked about disruption, okay? Disruptive technology. Now let us think about disruptive thought process. The thought process itself should be disruptive. We cannot have the luxury of having conventional thinking anymore. Our thought process has to, why should I call a library as rural, district or state level library? When everybody has a mobile phone, when everybody has access to the internet, why can't we think of disrupting this whole model and think of not the books? Books are there. Yes, people like to come and feel the books and read. They are there. But what additional things can we give? What Kerala state can do as Kerala state library for the entire population of Kerala? This is the question. Why should we think about rural library? Okay, I know that administratively and money wise and allocation wise there are different things that happen. Now I want to discount all that. Now I talked about this to somebody yesterday, that there is a Kerala Cloud there. And I said, then why can't there be a state level sort of bibliographic database where everything can be recorded at the state level, and whoever goes, no matter in which district they are there, they can know at least about the existence of some book or resource, if it is physical, and if it is electronic, just get it. Why can't that be there? And the person came out with a wonderful answer. The Kerala Cloud is worried about security loopholes of Koha software. Okay, Koha is a software which is an open source software used for library automation, right? So now these people who were writing Koha were writing for to make it open source. Their whole from first day their intention was to make it open source. They didn't intend to make money out of Koha. So naturally, people like me and people like who wrote Koha, we have no respect for this thing called security. I'm sorry. We have. I usually say that what for security is needed? Is it a bank account? Is it my insurance? Okay. If it is library, even if I pay money to somebody come and hack my site, nobody will hack. Who will hack for books and knowledge? Even if I pay money, they are not going to hack. Okay. So why this kind of thinking that there is a security lab in a beautifully packaged software, the equivalent of which in India, many libraries are paying lakhs of rupees per year to obtain the software and to maintain it. You know, the maintenance charge of library automation software, I'm not talking about the purchase. Purchase is different models. You drink a cup of tea with the person, he will give it for 7 lakh rupees. You have lunch with him, he will give it for 5 lakh rupees. You have lunch and dinner, he will give it for 3 lakh rupees. Various business models are there. I don't ever touch what is not open source software. And I am again illiterate about what is paid software. So I will not go into that realm. So when somebody has packaged Koha, the software, which is naturally, architecturally amenable to networking, it is architecturally amenable to networking, why can't we adopt that? And it has got a language interface you can as well have in Malayalam language with a little bit of intervention. So I would suggest that thing, that if you have a business cloud, data cloud in Kerala, and people have respect for security, I don't have, but people have, okay, fine, I respect that, you have it, but you can parallelly have an academic cloud. Okay, the business model is different. You can have that for whatever transaction purpose, but please do not let that not prevent an academic cloud. Then we can remove this huge digital divide that is there between rural India, semi-urban India, and urban India. So these digital means are there. That's why I am telling that the thought disruptive thinking is required. We are thinking very much in the model that we are conditioned. Social conditioning is something that is very dangerous, and it is almost insurmountable. So it's very difficult to overcome the conventional thought process in which we are practically born into. I know that, but even then I would request this kind of a new thought. And regarding open access to knowledge, already Saji sir mentioned this. When I am writing an article as an academic and you are accessing it as an academic, and somebody else like Gopinath sir is the reviewer who is an academic, who is the outsider in this circle? The publisher is the outsider. Treat her or him as the outsider. Treat them as outsider. Do not let them to rule the academic content. They are ruling. They are emperors. They are kings today. Okay, they are ruling it. And probably who is the publisher you read? Did you ever read the CV of a publishing house owner? Did you ever read the CV? I doubt they have passed 1 degree also. I doubt. Okay. What they are is they are very, very good businessmen. They are very good businessmen. They know how to make business out of nothing. Okay. I call this, I was telling sir in the morning, I call this information selling and buying as a freak in the, sir he is marketing, he's a management person, he knows much better about marketing and sales and all this management, but I, from my academic perspective, I study this whole cycle of publication, reading and selling. Now, if I go and buy this phone from, I bought it from whatever, Google Pixel or whatever, they fix some price for this phone, I paid that price and I got this phone. So the person has my money and I have the phone. Okay? When the money went to the person, they no longer have the phone because they gave the phone to me. Right? Now, information article. You imagine this same scenario. I paid the money, I got the article. He still has the article after selling it. Okay? He still has the article and he can sell to another 100 people, 1000 people or worldwide. Isn't this a beautiful model to make money? It's a beautiful model. And I'm telling you, I read a statistic that the Elsevier turnover per year, according to a study, was their entire turnover was 2.2 billion and net profit margin was 2% more than Apple Inc. Apple Incorporated. So Apple as a company makes Apple phones. I don't like them, but still they make Apple phones, they make iPads, they make watches, they make everything. So they are investing, they have industry, they are giving employment, they are buying the raw material and doing all this. Elsevier, what industry it has? Where is their manufacturing unit? But still they got 2% more profit than Apple in a given year. So this is what I wanted to talk about, the publishing model. And this publishing model is covertly supported by governments, by decision makers worldwide. Until we question this, until we make our own social mission, because this is one of the objectives of this session, that it should be a people's mission. It should be a people's mission saying that, why should I publish in a ranked journal? Why, if I write the same article, if it gets published in Elsevier, it has another value. Same article, word by word, I publish in a digital repository, it has no value. What has changed? Entire same content, I'm publishing in digital repository instead of publishing in the Elsevier. Nothing has changed, except that Elsevier put his seal. Then it is very valuable, and when I put it in my digital repository, it has no value. So this is that's why I'm saying we need a complete revamp of thinking at the decision makers level. If at decision makers level it changes, then I think we have, I don't wish to take too much time, just some more points that I took over. More than anything, what is required is remove isolation of libraries. That taluk library will only serve that taluk. This district library only will serve this. No, we cannot any longer afford to have these geographical boundaries in the digital world. For example, you take this university, just this morning I was talking to the Pro-VC and he said that this university exists at 8 locations. Okay? Does this library at Kannur talk to the library in Manantawadi? Are they interoperable? We don't know. If you use the same technology, if you use the same standard, if you use the same workflows, then this library can talk. I mean, librarian can pick up the phone and talk. I am not talking about that. The information resources should be interoperable. Okay? Like for example, today I don't know Malayalam, you don't know English. So I need a translator. If standards are not the same, we still will have some intermediary to translate that. So networking is the way to move forward. That is the only way to remove whatever barriers that we can think of. So I will end with my principles that I published a few years back on open knowledge. We talk about knowledge societies. Knowledge society cannot be realized, in my words, without active libraries, without transformed libraries. There is no knowledge society. It's not going to happen. There has to be transformed libraries. So I made these principles only for that. Knowledge unto who produces knowledge, means knowledge is the right of who produces knowledge and no one else's right. Knowledge unto those who produce knowledge. The other one is scholarship is the same whether it is priced or open. If you put a price on knowledge or not put a price on it, it is still the same. Thank you very much.